Now we start with the sliding filament theory, and that is the theory for mechanism of muscle contraction. In this you need to take only one concept in the mind, sliding filament. So the filament will simply slide over each other. So which is the stable filament? You need to remember one point over here, and that is the myosin filament is stable and the actin filament slide over it. So let us begin with the theory. Now, here the sliding filament theory is proposed for mechanism of muscle contraction. Mechanism of muscle contraction. So, if we talk about this, we know that if you want to, like our muscles, the skeletal muscles are voluntary muscles. So, अगर brain कोई message send कर रहा है skeletal muscle पे, तो it will be through the motor neurons. So, the first point over here is the brain sends the signal to the motor, through the motor neurons to the muscles. Okay. So, first is brain sends signal to the muscle through motor neuron. It would be something like then the muscle तक वो impulse आती है और फिर न्यूरॉन का एंड जो होता है जिसे हम कहते हैं साइनेप्टिक नर्व वो रिलीज करता है न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर एसिटाइल कोलाइन. तो इससे पहले वी कैन से दैट न्यूरॉन्स neuron releases acetyl choline. तो एक केमिकल ब्रिजिंग बन जाता है और उसकी वजह से एक जंक्शन फॉर्म होता है और उस जंक्शन को हम कहते हैं न्यूरोमस्कुलर जंक्शन, न्यूरॉन और मसल का जंक्शन, और इट इज ऑल्सो नोन एज मोटर एंड प्लेट. So after this you can say that motor and plate is formed. This motor and plate is also called as neuromuscular junction. In short, it is known as NM junction. Next point, once the acetylcholine is released, as I told you that the muscles get excited. So once as the acetylcholine is released, because of this point, there is a potential difference developed in the muscles. मतलब क्या होता है कि जैसे ही एसिटाइलकोलाइन रिलीज हुआ मसल्स के अंदर तो वहां पे पोटेंशियल डिफरेंस डेवलप होता है, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट द सार्कोप्लाज्मिक रेटिकुलम दैट व्हिच स्टोर्स द कैल्शियम आयन रिलीजेस द कैल्शियम आयन. ओके, सो आफ्टर दिस द सार्कोप्लाज्मिक रेटिकुलम releases the calcium ion. तो ये कैल्शियम आयन किस में रिलीज होगा? सार्कोप्लाज्म में रिलीज होगा. तो ये कैल्शियम आयन फिर जाके बाइंड करेगा थिन फिलामेंट को. लेकिन थिन फिलामेंट को कहाँ? तो हमने लिखा था कि ट्रोपोनिन में 3 सब यूनिट होती है, टीपीसी, टीपीआई, टीपीटी. On that it will go and bind to TPC, that stands for calcium binding site. So after this, once the calcium ions are released, calcium binds TPC of troponin, and we know that troponin is a component of thin filament, that is actin filament. Okay, once the calcium binds the TPC, simultaneously ATP will bind the myosin. We also know that the ATP binding sites are present on the myosin head. So let us talk about this. After this, the ATP binds the myosin head. We also know that ATP binding site is present on the head of that myosin filament or the thick filament. So important point again over here. What binds to the thin filament? Calcium. And what binds to the thick filament? It is ATP. So let us understand the same thing over here. Now we know that let's say this is a actin filament and this is TPC over it. So what will happen? The calcium will come and bind to this, and lower side lies the myosin filament. We know that it is having this head portion. So what will happen? ATP will bind over here. So this is this point I am explaining you. Calcium will bind the actin filament TPC, and the ATP will bind to the myosin filament. Now, as soon as ATP binds over here, there is a very clear diagram, a circular diagram given in your textbook, NCERT book, that we will see again after this. So as soon as the ATP binds to this, ATP gets hydrolyzed over here. So ATP gets into ADP plus P. So next point is what? Hydrolysis of ATP takes place. Okay. So let us understand this now. So over here, hydrolysis of ATP takes place and that is converted into ADP plus P. That means what? Hydrolysis means what? That the myosin head is getting energy so that it can be lifted up. Okay. So hydrolysis of ATP takes place, and next point is myosin head gets lifted up. What does it mean? Like suppose this is a thin filament. So over here it comes and binds the calcium. Whereas this on the lower side is a thick filament. इसके साथ जाके bind करेगा ATP. अब क्या होगा? ये जैसे हाइड्रोलाइज होगा, इसका हेड ऐसे ऊपर उठेगा और बाइंड करेगा एक्टिन के साथ. बिकॉज मायोसिन फिलामेंट के पास दो बाइंडिंग साइट होते हैं. एक होता है ATP बाइंडिंग साइट और दूसरा होता है एक्टिन बाइंडिंग साइट. So once the ATP is getting hydrolyzed, the head is lifted up and it binds the upper portion of actin filament. Is that clear to you now? Now we have seen that the myosin head is lifted up. So let us have a small diagram for the understanding of this. Now in your textbook there is a diagram given. Let us see, this is a actin filament to which the calcium ion binds, and here is the myosin filament. Now what binds to this myosin filaments? Just now we have done that. ATP binds to this. Now what will happen next? Hydrolysis of ATP. So if hydrolysis of ATP is taking place, this ATP is getting converted into ADP plus PI. Next, what will happen after this? After this, the myosin head is lifted up. What is lifted up? Myosin head is lifted up. So, once the myosin head is lifted up, what will happen? It will get bind to the actin. It will get binded to the actin. Because myosin head is having actin binding site. Fine. So let us understand this. From that concept, let us understand this. Now we know that this is a thick filament and this is also a thick filament and this is thin filament. So let us consider that these are the head. Now this is during the relaxed condition of the sarcomere. Now this starts during muscle contraction. What happens? During muscle contraction, what happens? So this heads are lifted up and now it will pull the thin filament towards the center. So this heads are lifted up and it will tend to pull the thin filament. So this thick filament will remain as it is on its place and it will pull this thin filaments towards the center. So it would be something like, if I am the thick filament, I am pulling 2% just over here towards the center. So if you consider me as a thick filament, if I am pulling them in, what will happen? These two thin filaments will go in the center and the consequences of that would be that the eye bands get shortened. And as they are going in the center, H zone starts decreasing. And when there is a total muscle contraction, what is happening? The whole thin filaments are pushed towards the center, that is M line. So if they are pushed towards the center, you can see that there is no H zone. So H zone is here till here over here, then it is decreasing and then it is disappearing. So what happens? This is during the muscle contraction and this is when there is a total muscle contraction. So how does the thin filament are coming towards the center? It's because that the thick filament is holding the thin filament and it is pulling the thin filament towards the center. So, and that formation is known as formation of cross bridge. So over here you can say that the cross bridge is formed. And because of this, now what will happen? This thick filament will pull the thin filaments towards the center. It pulls the thin filament towards center. Again, what will happen then? Once the thin filament is to the center, again ATP is used up. So again the head will come down. Here new calcium will bind and then again the ATP gets hydrolyzed and then again the cross bridge is formed, pulls the thin filament. So it goes in repeated sequence. So now let us understand how this thing goes on. So here we understood that the hydrolysis of ATP has taken place. Now what we will write? Head of myosin binds with actin. Head of myosin binds with actin and pulls actin filament towards the center. Remember, this actin filament is thin filament. So it will simply pull it towards the center. Now, so what are the consequences? What happens? Important point. During muscle contraction, what will happen? H zone starts decreasing. So you can see that I band is still here. I band has also been pulled inside. So I band decreases. Then H zone also decreases, starts decreasing. And when it is a total muscle contraction, what will happen? Total muscle contraction. I am talking here about the third figure. So over here what has happened? You can see that there is no H zone, but and also the I band has shortened. So we will write one more point. I band shortens because it was here, then it came over here, and then it came over here. So I band has shortened. Which zone has disappeared? See, H zone was here till this big, and it has become here, and here it has just been disappeared. So H zone has disappeared. And which band does not changes at all? It is the A band. You can see that there is a consistency of A band. It does not changes at all. So you can say that A band remains as it is in length. But if we talk about thickness, then can we say it becomes thickened? Because you can see that the thin filaments are till here, but then onwards it is coming till here and then here. So A band remains as it is in the length, but in the diameter it gets thickened. So this is about the muscle contraction. So what we have taken as a point important, what we have to take as an important point over here is that during the muscle contraction, myosin filaments remains as it is and the actin filament slides over it. During the muscle contraction, I band shortens, H zone disappears, and A band remains as it is, but if diameter is asked, then you need to remember that diameter gets thickened. Okay. So now we will be talking about the next is how is the contraction taking place? The contraction is taking place because of formation of cross bridge. Now what is cross bridge? When myosin binds the actin, this is known as cross bridge. So when the cross bridge is formed, you can say that the contraction will take place. And when is the relaxation? Relaxation of muscle takes place when there is a breaking of cross bridge or this cross bridge is broken. Now, formation of cross bridge is taking place when? It is in the absence of ATP, because unless and until the ATP does not get hydrolyzed, how can the myosin filaments get energy? So remember that the formation of cross bridge is taking place in absence of ATP, because here ATP is already hydrolyzed. ATP is broken, then the cross bridge formation takes place. And the cross bridge is broken, at that time ATP will bind to do that. So at this point ATP binds again. Is this clear now? Okay. So now this is about contraction and relaxation. Now we know there is one more point, that if we do excess of work, if we do excess of strenuous of exercise, our muscles get tired. So let us talk about a small topic, a muscle fatigue. Or muscle getting tired. What happens over here? When the muscle is getting fatigued, means it is getting tired. When we do the strenuous exercise, कोई भी हम काम करते हैं तो ऑक्सीजन कम हो जाता है हमारी बॉडी में, तो एक एनारोबिक कंडीशन डेवलप होती है. What condition develops? Anaerobic condition. We know that during the anaerobic condition we start taking deep breath. Now what happens during anaerobic condition? Glycolysis takes place, in which glucose is converted into pyruvic acid. But these pyruvic acid, because it is anaerobic condition, will undergo fermentation and will form lactic acid. So, in absence of oxygen or deficiency of oxygen, what is formed in the muscles? The compound that is formed is lactic acid. And because of lactic acid accumulation, the muscle does not respond to the nervous impulse, and that condition is what we call it as muscle getting tired. So one important question can be asked over here, and what is that? It is that during muscle getting tired or during the strenuous exercise, what happens? What happens to our muscles? Lactic acid gets accumulated because there is an anaerobic condition. So as the lactic acid accumulation takes place, there is no further impulse being taken by the muscles from the nervous system, and that condition is called as muscle tired or muscle getting fatigued.